Two, one. Hello, hello. Welcome to the Wonder Series. It is Wonder Series Wednesday. I'm Denise Stegall. I'm the CEO and curator at Living Healthy List, and of course, your host for the Wonder Series. So, the Wonder Series is a weekly forum where we meet right here on Facebook and we talk about, well, things that you've been wondering about. Specifically in the areas of health, wellness, personal development, and bringing some fun back into life because a life worth living needs to have a little bit of fun in it. So what we do here at the Wonder Series, for those of you who have not seen us yet, who are new to us, we meet here every Wednesday. And each month, what we do is we specifically work on a topic. We talk about one particular topic. This month is March. So March is an interesting month because March to me, it means spring. Springtime comes, it's a rebirth, it's a rejuvenation. And the beauty in that is, think about it, the flowers start popping up, the crocuses and the tulips start popping through. Here in Minnesota, they start popping through the snow. We start tending our gardens. Our soil is replenished and it's ready to grow those healthy crops to nourish your body. So March is actually Nourishment Awareness Month or Nutrition Awareness Month. So we wanted to talk a bit about nutrition, specifically today about food nutrition, but we also want to touch on how the other ways that you nourish your body, mind, and spirit. So my guest today is my friend Debbie Movsesian, who is a physician assistant and she's a health coach as well. Her passion is health promotion and disease prevention and treating the root cause of disease. Now, this passion led her to start coaching because she believes it is education plus close support and accountability that truly inspires long-lasting health. Debbie, welcome and thank you for being with me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, we're talking about nutrition. It's Nutrition Awareness Month, and you are a coach who focuses on disease and disease prevention. So, how do the two of them relate?
Well, at the beginning of my career, I didn't actually have any idea. I actually started practicing medicine about 20 years ago as a PA and really didn't understand the full impact that nutrition has on our bodies. But luckily enough, I found the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and that all changed. And one of the pillars of health is nutrition. And I was just actually blown away at what I had learned because we always touch like on the surface about it. Like, yes, you should eat healthier, you should lose weight, you should exercise. And that's about the extent that most people talk about, or most practitioners will talk about, with their patients. But I really learned the major impact that it can really have. And so, for example, I started learning more and more about how foods affect our body, and that's in good ways and in bad ways. And really, we have gotten way off course in our culture where we focus on very convenient foods, fast foods, foods that taste really delicious. And we've really come away from what it is that food is supposed to be, which is to nourish our body. Foods are supposed to be taken in and used for energy, and we are supposed to feel great and look great and be able to do anything we want. We are not supposed to develop things like high blood pressure and diabetes and heart disease. I mean, a lot of people do, but that's not what's supposed to happen. And so basically nutrition, if you get the right nutrition, you literally can prevent or actually reverse, in many cases, disease processes that are happening in our bodies every day.
That's really a good point that you make. We're not supposed to have these disease states, and definitely it's a more industrialized world that is eating these foods, these convenience foods. So, how do we know that we're getting good nutrition or good nutrition? How do we know that?
Well, it starts with being honest with yourself and taking a look at what you actually are putting on your plate, or, on your fork, or in your cup, and really understanding what is in that. And I mean, like, the nitty-gritty of what's in it, like knowing the actual ingredients, and then taking it to the next level of understanding how those ingredients affect your body. So to take it from a very simplistic point of view, one way to look at it is that, do you find this thing hanging in nature on a plant or on a vine or in the ground? And if the answer is no, then it means it's processed to some extent. So the more you're able to look at your food as real, true, whole foods, the more nutrients that you can be confident that you're getting. And another way to kind of think about it is that the more diverse of like the rainbow that you can see on your plate, you want to have a lot of different colors and a lot of vibrant colors. And what those colors represent are nutrients and antioxidants. They're the literally the disease fighting properties of food. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that is a very simple way of talking about, am I getting enough nutrients? Well, look at your plate and tell me how many different colors you see.
Yeah, it's true. I know it was funny when you said, if is it hanging from a tree or a vine? And I had this image of bottles of soda hanging from a tree, because that's one of the things that I know so many people struggle with, because, soda is, I mean, it tastes good. It's sweet. It's refreshing. But it's also full of sugar, and which we know is not necessarily good for us.
And to add to that, the diet sodas as well. I had this conversation with one of my patients the other day, and they said, "Oh, well, don't worry, I'm just drinking the Sprite Zero or whatever it was called." And I said, "Hold on, like it is just as bad, if not worse, to drink those things that say sugar free, because these are artificial sweeteners. So you won't even find that in nature anywhere, even if you process it down. Like that is a manufactured thing, and we know that that wreaks havoc on your body. It messes with your glucose levels. It encourages weight gain instead of weight loss. And so I really wanted to add that in, that just because something doesn't have sugar, it doesn't mean that it's healthy. So
Well, here's an interesting thought. So there's a product, a soda product on the market that has that's sweetened with stevia. What's your thought there? Because stevia is a plant, but I hear a lot of back and forth when it comes to stevia too.
yeah, so the approach I like to take is that everything is relative to something else. So is stevia healthy compared to what? Compared to artificial sweeteners like sucralose, or I don't even know how to say it. Maybe. Is it as healthy as having an apple and having that fresh natural fruit that comes from a real piece of fruit? Absolutely not. So it's all relative, and it really depends on how much you're having as well too. So I don't like to kind of push people into a corner where it's like it's all or nothing. It really is about what are your goals and where are you in your health or disease journey. Eh, Really what you're able to take risks with, because if someone's trying to reverse disease, then I'm going to really try to encourage them to have a natural source of a sweetener. And because stevia isn't just grown on a tree, you still have to process it down. So most things, unless you literally see a piece of fruit or a vegetable or a bean, most things that people eat are processed. And so you just have to really think about, to what extent is it processed, and what are you choosing that instead of. It's all relative.
Sure, there's a continuum, kind of like when you think of an apple. An apple is in its purest state, and then you make applesauce with it, which you've added some stuff, but then you can take that same apple plus a bunch more and you make an apple pie. It's
Mhm.
still apple, but so I see what you mean. So there's definitely a continuum. So for people who are listening, for our listeners today, who are kind of thinking, okay, yeah, maybe I do need to pay more attention to what I'm eating, to my nutrition, whether it's just for personal health and wellness or to reverse disease. What's the first step?
Let's see. The first step for sure is to take a minute, take a step back, and kind of look at the big picture and really decide what is it that you want. Because you can live in the moment and you can say that it's really hard, or, I don't have the family support, or, there's a lot of reasons why it's difficult to make healthy changes. But if you take a step back and you really get clear, like, I don't want to die of a heart attack. I want to live and be hiking when I'm 80. Like, when you really think about that, then passing on a piece of pizza isn't as hard. So really, step one really is to get clear with what your goals are. And then the next step is to take a really good, honest look at what you are eating on a normal basis.
Mhm.
And then once you kind of, and again, you have to be honest with yourself, because if you go and you just say, oh, I eat fruit and vegetables every day. No, I mean, like, literally pen to paper, write down everything you've eaten in the last 24 hours or 72 hours, as long as you can. whatever you can remember, and write down exactly what you had and how it was prepared and where you got it from.
Mhm.
And then really look at it and evaluate it and say, okay, how many fruits are in there? How many vegetables are in there? How many beans or whole intact grains? How many nuts and seeds compared to everything else? How processed is all the other stuff? And so once you really get a good picture of what your usual diet looks like, and I hate to say diet, your usual eating plan looks
Mhm.
like, then you're able to start adding more nutrients in. And then I find that's a very like positive supportive approach, as opposed to saying what you can't have. Because the more nutrients you add in, the more you'll start to feel the benefits, and then you'll just naturally start crowding out the stuff that is leading to diseases.
Mhm. So you mentioned before my favorite thing in the world, pizza. And it truly is. I'm from New York. I love, love pizza. But I also, and it's something that truly, if, I didn't really think about it, I would eat every day. What I think has been really fun is to find different recipes for pizza. So the cauliflower pizza crusts,
Mhm.
yeah, they're a little different, but it still gives you that kind of crunch and that thought that you're eating pizza. And so that I think is also a good recommendation too, is just to swap some things out here and there. And
Yeah.
sometimes you might not love it, but also it's important to try new things.
For sure.
So, okay, so people are starting to look at their plate, what's going on. What do you see as the biggest, truly the biggest challenge people have when it comes to not necessarily changing their diet? Because like you said, you have to kind of meet people where they are. But what is their biggest challenge in? Is it mindset? Is it habit? Is it, do they not know how to cook these type of foods? What is your experience?
I would say that the biggest problem is that people eat without thinking. They plan meals without thinking. Like it's not a very conscious decision most of the time. And there's statistics out there, like 80 to 90% of our daily actions are done subconsciously. Like that means that you have no control because you're not consciously aware of them and making a very deliberate decision. And so I mean, just think about how many times you've picked up like a bag of chips and next thing you know, it's gone, or you go to have one cookie and then you've had eight. Like it's something that you just start doing like
Mhm.
subconsciously. It really is this thing that, our brain does that on purpose to preserve energy. And so when you really start to think about what you're eating and be very mindful of it,
Mhm.
and you bring in this whole idea of like really understanding how the foods are affecting your body, then you can start purposely creating new habits, first making new decisions that then over time will lead to new habits that can really change the trajectory of your
Mhm.
health and start reversing diseases. And so I do think that the biggest thing is that the way people eat now is based on their lifetime worth of habits that they've built
Mhm.
up. And it's really amazing sometimes when people start to just get really honest with themselves and focus in on that stuff, bring it to the surface instead of it being
Mhm.
subconscious. They're like, wow, like yeah, I'm eating ice cream at night out of habit, not for any other real purpose. So
Mhm. You made a good point when you said about, people not really thinking much when, they're preparing meals. Um, I know you and I've had this conversation before about meal prep and meal planning. Just this morning, I sent Mark, my husband, out to do the food shopping because I'm actually still quarantining. Um, and I actually made sure that I was flipping through my recipe book so I knew what I was going to be making all week. And so we bought the food items accordingly.
yes.
Tell me a little bit about your process when it comes to food prep and food planning or
Oh
meal
yeah, like
planning.
I have a complete process. Like this is my thing. This is my jam. So I mean, all of my programs, that is the main focus is meal planning, because it's something that is a very active decision that you can bring in all of the nutrients that you want if you really understand, the different foods and how to bring them in. And it's something you can do over and over and over so that it becomes a habit, so that these subconscious things are actually to your benefit.
Mhm.
And so really, like what you just said, the first step is to make sure that you spend some time going through recipes, pulling out your cookbook, asking
Mhm.
other people for, ideas, to keep it fresh and exciting. I mean, you have to spend some time planning out your meals. And if you don't, you are setting yourself up to go back to your old ways. Absolutely. So the first step is carving out a little bit of time to actually go through and write out everything you want. And it doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be different every day. It just has to be a plan. And it doesn't even have to be followed 100%. It just has to start with some concrete plan where you can see it on paper. And then step 2 is you take that plan, you go figure out what it is you have and don't have, and you make sure that you generate a very detailed grocery list. That's step number 2 that has to be done. It's crucial. It sounds so silly, but I mean, think about how many times you've gone to, the best intentions, you pull out your recipe and then you're like, like I don't have my main ingredient. And then you're frustrated, you say, screw it, you get carry out, whatever, and it throws you way off. So if you have it planned out, you have a detailed grocery list. So you make sure that when you step 3 shop, you get everything that you need and you have it there ready for you. Those steps make all the difference. And then of course, step 4 is like a bonus where if you carve out some extra time on your least busy day to do a little bit of prep, whether that's a 30 minutes or 3 hours, it doesn't matter. It still helps. And you cut some veggies and you get some like quick and easy things ready so you can grab it, and go. And it really does make for an easier week, especially if you're working full time. So that's my fourth.
Yep. I have 2 questions. Okay. So you mentioned about cutting veggies and prepping them. I always have a challenge when I prep veggies. What do tell us, what's the right way to store them? What's the right way to clean them? Like how long are they really good? Because I hear from a lot of people, oh well, I cut up that pepper and I guess maybe they forgot about it, but it got slimy, or maybe it's how it's being stored or how it's being prepped. Tell us a little bit about that.
I think that there's a lot that you could say potentially about storing and all that, but really what it comes down to is like have the stuff that goes bad in the front of the refrigerator. We just had this conversation with my family and I said, we get to put all of the leftovers in the front because what gets thrown in the back will never get eaten. And we throw away stuff all the time that's in the back of the refrigerator. So if you have stuff that you are worried is going to go bad quickly, there are some different containers, but I think more importantly than that is have it be part of your plan. Like things that go bad quickly, have it be, your Monday meals and your Monday snacks and just have that stuff front and center. So when you open the refrigerator, it's right there and you eat it.
I think that's a great recommendation. Thank you. I think everybody can say, yep, all that stuff in the back of the refrigerator. That was great. I love that. So my other question when it comes to veggies is how about frozen veggies?
They're great. They're great. I mean, frozen fruits and frozen veggies are lifesavers because you can stock up on them. You don't have to worry about whether they're organic or in season or whatever. You can, so the biggest thing is that as long as you look at the label, because some of the frozen stuff might have a bunch of stuff added. So as long as you look and all you see is the word, of the veggie that you're buying, you're good to go. And we buy frozen veggies. We buy a lot of frozen fruit. We don't buy as many frozen veggies, but it's a great alternative. Especially like what you were just talking about. So you don't have to worry about things going bad. You can get a variety of vegetables, already ready to go frozen.
Okay. You've given us so many amazing tips. I'm going to turn the channel on you here because I know your forte is nutrition and food. So I'm going to ask you this question. When it comes to nourishing your body, aside from food, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Nourishing your body, mind, or spirit?
So that's actually an awesome question because for me personally, I'm pretty good with my nutrition. Like I have made it a habit. I don't even need to put 2 thoughts into it. It just happens. But what I do have to put thought into is and it sounds so silly. Every time I hear this word, I feel like it sounds silly, but it's self-care. And it really is it. Like I am a go, go, go kind of person. And I love to take care of other people, my family, my patients, my clients. But it's really important to take a step back and incorporate something in your lifestyle that is just for you and your relaxation or your, like you said, mind, body, and spirit nourishment that isn't related to any of that other stuff. And so for me personally, I try to have a morning routine where I incorporate some, positive like thought process, affirmations, whatever you want to call it, some meditating. I love to do yoga because that's just one of my favorite ways to exercise. And And I think that there's so much pressure for people to exercise and lose weight that things get lost. And I kind of came up with this new quote lately, and it's like, use your food to fuel your health, but use exercise to actually enjoy your health and have fun. And I think that the more people focus on doing things that they enjoy, the more they'll actually do them, and it becomes just another part of their healthy routine. So
I love your quote. I absolutely love your quote. That needs to get plastered everywhere, because I
because
think
so
you're
many
you're
people focus on
100% right.
food as like their entertainment, their fun, their pleasure. And
Mhm.
it really, I think it's backwards. And they push themselves to exercise, but like, let's switch it around. Let's look at food as not this pleasure seeking thing, but like something that we do for our health. And I mean, it can be pleasurable, don't get me wrong, but not the main focus. The main focus
Mhm.
is that the food is there to nourish us, to make us healthy, to fuel us. And really, let's try to turn that so that exercise is the fun and the pleasure.
I love that. I love that. I think it's so true. We do focus so much on food and what we can't eat, um, instead of what we can eat and should eat. Well, should eat, I guess.
Yeah.
There's so many amazing things. Um, since we did talk a little bit about pleasure there, I'm going to kind of switch back and ask you this question. What about those? So we're eating lots of fruits and veggies and our whole grains and our nuts and seeds, and we're eating, nutritious foods. But every now and then you get a sweet tooth. What does one do there? I mean, what's your recommendation there? I mean, do you just say no to chocolate and cookies forever and ice cream for the rest of your life? What's your thoughts behind or around that?
Well, so that can be a very loaded question because it depends on your goals and where you are in your journey. So, and again, you got to be honest with yourself. If
Mm,
you know that every time you buy a certain whatever, let's just say cookie, you know that every time you buy a bag of cookies, you can't just eat one, you will eat the whole bag. Well, then that tells you don't buy
mhm,
the cookies. And
mhm,
same thing with pizza. And same, I mean, I don't ever recommend pizza, but if you have a thing where you know that you always go overboard and you can't control yourself, then that is a red flag. Like, hello, like, do not buy those things. Don't have them in your house. Do
mhm,
whatever you can to avoid them. But I'm also, I also like to focus on the philosophy of that it's not all or nothing. And
mhm.
so again, it really depends on where you are and where your goals are. Like the way I work with my clients is that if you are ready to go and you want to know like the shortest, fastest, most efficient way to go from A to Z, I can show you and I can take you there. But most people aren't ready to do that. And
Sure.
so let's decide what are you willing and able and ready to do,
Mhm.
and let's set up goals, surrounding that and action steps surrounding that. And so I don't like to say like, oh, you can always have like a treat day, or I don't like to have rewards. It's like, it's not about that. It's really like empower yourself to understand what the foods are doing and then make the decision from there. And so there's a lot of stuff that I used to eat that once I truly understood how it's affecting my body and elevating our risk for stroke and all of these other things, or I meant cancer, but cancer and stroke and all these other things, um, I don't want them anymore. It's literally like the shift in the way I think about food. And so it's not that I can't have it. It's not that I won't let myself have it. It's that I'm in this new place where I look at food differently and I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't want that anymore because I know what it can do. And so, again, it really just depends on where people are at. And,
Sure.
I work specifically with people who have type 2 diabetes and they're trying to reverse it. So I might be way more lenient at home because we're not dealing with that anymore than I will be with my clients during week 1. So
Sure. Sure. Oh, it makes sense. I think you're right. I think you make a good point. No understanding what the foods are doing to you or for you really does change your mindset around food. Debbie, thank you so much for all of this amazing information. Can you tell us, please, tell our audience how they can get in touch with you, um, your website, your Facebook information? Shoot it all out. Tell us
yeah,
what.
so
Tell us where to find you.
the best way is my private Facebook group. It's called Say Goodbye to Diabetes. And that is just the easiest way. You can just get in, join the group. You're surrounded by people who are on a similar journey where they want to live a life without medications. And that's the best way, is to just find me in that group.
Wonderful. Okay, I'm writing that down. So make sure that we put that in, that everybody has that information so they can connect with you. Any last tidbits that you want to share before we wrap up?
Just that I want people to understand that there is so much that you can do, but don't get overwhelmed. It's just, one step at a time. Really just start learning more about food and how the food affects your body, good and bad. And just
Mhm.
one day at a time, start making decisions and choices that are going to lead you to the health that you ultimately want. Don't feel like you have to do it all in one day, but just believe that it's possible, and just take one step at a time.
I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for all of this great information. But at this point, that's all we have time for today. So thank you. Thank you. My dear audience, please join me again next week for another episode of the Wonder Series. I'm here Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. Also, please join our community at livinghealthylist.com for lifestyle tips and strategies and to get the scoop on what's happening over here at Living Healthy List. I will see you next Wednesday. Till then, healthy living, happy life.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, Debbie.